7 years ago, Lucy and Phil Bates set themselves the challenge of bringing the feel of the Australian bush to their small suburban block. No mean feat, and it's all the more impressive considering that muscular dystrophy has been slowly robbing Phil of his freedom of movement. So how do you go with the division of labour?
Well, when we first moved in, I was a lot more able to do more of the heavy work. But as the muscular dystrophy's developed, Lucy's taken on all of the heavy digging and pruning and that sort of thing, and I do a lot of the potting, and I like to think of myself as a little bit of an artistic director as well, you know.
Fair enough. Sensibly, they've built wide ramped paths which assist with mobility through this 100% native garden.
On all the coastal headlands around here, there are these really dense communities of plants where obviously they're wind pruned or animal pruned, and they sort of step back from the front in tiers. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could get something like that started here and create an environment that was good for us, but also good for the birds and the reptiles and the flying insects and all that kind of thing as well.
Do you have any particular favourite groups of plants?
I like grevilleas. I'm a bit shallow. I like showy plants, you know. But Lucy's got her favourites too.
Yeah, I like the Darwinias. I just love the delicate touch of the Darwinias, and the Prostanthera's wonderful mint smells, and Epacris. Yeah, I think they're probably my favourites. Yeah.
And looking around the garden, I notice you've got a lot of native plant cultivars, so you're obviously not purists about just growing the wild species?
No, we see a plant that we like. And it doesn't really matter to us whether it's a species or a hybrid or a cultivar or even a grafted plant. If it's the plant that we want, then we'll get it in and put it in. Yeah.
There's a lot of falling in love in our garden.
Out the back, you can see Lucy and Phil are not afraid of making radical changes. They've removed most of the planting on the back fence because it was too crowded, and have started again with more generous spacing.
And if you look over there, you can see that I've been watching Gardening Australia, and I've got a lovely little tip off Jane Edmondson, and I've put in a coria. So I'm hoping to espalier that.
It's always interesting to hear what keen and experienced gardeners have learned along the way.
From the fertiliser point of view, we tend to use a lot of foliage fertiliser, particularly during the winter. We alternate every 2 weeks with a nitrogen-based fertiliser and a potash-containing fertiliser to boost the flowering a little bit. As far as pruning goes, we do a lot of tip pruning, where you just take out the little soft tips, keep the plant dense and compact. Do a little bit more pruning every now and again.
Of course, Phil and Lucy's pond is full of native water plants.
It's worked really well. We have a lot of frogs and we get a lot of water skinks in there. We do have native fish in there, some rainbow fish, and keeps down the mosquitoes, so that's a good thing.
One thing I really love about your garden is the way you've used those drifts of Brachyscomb daisies. It's a real signature.
They're lovely, aren't they? They're pretty forgiving sort of plants, Brachyscombs. They just keep coming up and flowering. But in this part of the garden, I really love these hybrid grevilleas. It's the Billy Bonkers and the Honeybird Lemons. They're showy and they flower, and they only grow 1 metre by 1 metre, so perfect in a garden this size.
And how about you, Phil?
Well, at the moment I really love this Grevillea fireworks, the red and the yellow together, just a beautiful flower. But I think at this time of year in the garden overall, the Corozema caudatum just really takes my fancy. Beautiful plant, beautiful plant.
The other thing that really strikes me about your garden as well is the level of care and maintenance is perhaps similar to what someone might apply to a rose bush. And I think with native plants, people often neglect them, and whilst they'll survive, they don't live up to their full flowering potential. So I think you're doing an amazing job.
Well, I think that's right, Angus. If you want a good garden plant, then you've got to treat it like a good garden plant.